Today we're going to talk about chicken stock and why we have chicken stock in the freezer cooking class. You'll see in almost all of the freezer cooking classes we make some kind of stock, whether it's chicken or beef. And how we do it and a little bit more in depth of what we can use it for and what we can use the chicken for afterwards. So to make our chicken stock, and in our freezer cooking days we usually make this beautiful golden chicken stock that has a good layer of fat on the top. To make this, we, as you'll see in the cooking demonstration videos and read in the instructions, we brown the chicken, the skin on chicken with the bone in. So I usually use drumsticks or wings. The cheaper cuts are great for stock. They have the good tendons in there that give it the glucosamine, chondroitin, the amino acids that we want. So what we do is we brown the chicken over either on the stovetop or in the oven. So in the oven, if your stock pot is oven proof, you can just put your chicken down in the bottom of the stock pot, toss it in the oven at 350 for about 45 minutes or until you get that nice golden brown down at the bottom. And if you're doing it on the stovetop, if your stock pot is not oven proof, then you'll just go ahead and heat it over medium to medium high heat. As you brown the outside, you want to brown the skin and get those nice brown bits, and that gives it the nice rich flavor and the beautiful golden color. So from there we will go ahead and fill filtered water over the top, and I like to fill my stock pot just 3/4 full. It can be a little bit more or a little bit less. It's not an exact science here. And then from there we bring it to a simmer. So you'll want to kind of heat it over medium-high heat until it starts boiling, and then turn it down to, it'll depend on your stove. So on my stove it's usually about 2.5. And so I just go ahead and let that simmer for the next hour or two, and it will produce this nice stock. And from there, because we're in our kitchen anyway for the freezer cooking class, about an hour before you're done, you're gonna just go ahead and turn that off, and you can either move, if you need to get your stock pot out of the way, you can move it off the stove, or a lot of times I'll just put the lid on it and let it cool right on the stove. I put the lid on it just to make sure that nothing weird like a fly doesn't fly in, or like vegetables don't start going in from when we're doing our cooking, or grease splatters. But it'll take a little longer with the lid on, but I feel better just having the lid on there so I know it's done and it's cooling down. And from there I just pour off most of the chicken stock like this, and I pour it right into jars. You also can run it through a colander and into another bowl, especially if you have those big mixing bowls like the 8-cup mixing bowls that have the little spout on them that are also the measuring cup. If you do that and you pour it through a colander, it'll grab all the little bits of skin and stuff. But I don't find it hard to just pour off most of the stock, and then we have our chicken down at the bottom, and that chicken that's left over, you can make chicken stock twice. So this is from the second run through the bones. So what I'll do is after our cooking day, I'll just take the chicken that's left over and the bones and the little bits of skin, and I'll stick it in the freezer. And then I can put that whole bag of frozen chicken stock in a slow cooker and just cover that with filtered water and turn it on low. And it makes a little bit of a paler chicken stock, but it still, you can see how thick it is. And if you can see, it's thick because of the gelatin in it. So you're still getting a lot of nutrition from the second use of those chicken bones. Another thing we can do with our chicken stock is after it's all completed, we can fish the bones out and save them for another batch with a slotted spoon. So just use a slotted spoon to take them out of your stock pot, and then go ahead and bring that chicken stock up to a simmer again and kind of let it boil out until it's reduced by half, or even by 2/3 or 3/4. And so then from your stock pot, it'll go all the way down to you just have a few inches of really concentrated chicken stock in there at the end of your cooking day. Turn that off, let it cool, and then you can add like 1/2 cup or a cup of grass-fed beef gelatin, and then let that melt in there. Once it's cooled, you're gonna add the gelatin, let it absorb for 5 minutes. And I have instructions that I'll add to this on how to make, these are broth cubes that we're making here. And so once you add the gelatin and then you heat it back up again, you turn it back on the stove and then you let it cool again, it'll be really firm blocks. And so these are our gelatin or our chicken stock cubes or beef stock or whatever kind of stock that you've made. And they're a lot more concentrated, so you can just cut the cubes out, put them in a Ziploc bag or in your container of choice. Keep them in the freezer and pop one out whenever you need to make a pot of soup. So I'll use about 1 inch square of these cubes per person that's eating the soup. So I'll take out 4 of them or take a bigger square out for, and just pop that in the slow cooker and add some water to reconstitute it, and then add your veggies and you have a super fast soup. What we use all this chicken stock for is in pretty much any savory dish or even egg dishes. You can use like a 1/4 cup or even one of those broth cubes that we just talked about. You can melt it in the bottom of your pan before you make scrambled eggs in the morning. Here's our cauliflower mash. We made this in both the Cozy Winter Suppers class and the American Classics class. So we use this as mashed cauliflower, like as fake mashed potatoes. Or you can just thaw this until it's slushy, put it in the bottom of your slow cooker, add a quart of chicken stock, and then let that cook on low all day. Slice up some leeks or whatever veggies you have on hand and add that before dinner, and you have a super instant soup. Here's another soup pack that we have. This one is butternut, carrot, paprika, and chili pepper. So at the end of this, this already has, you can't really see it, but it has a soup or a broth cube in it already. So we'll just let this thaw, dump this into the slow cooker, and then we can add water until the slow cooker is like 3/4 full. Cook that on low all day and it's ready to go. So why do we include chicken stock so much? It's because it's such a good source of protein and it's really easily absorbed. As you know, most of our families and all of our modern culture in America, we have some sort of leaky gut, which means our body's not pulling the nutrients needed out of food as it used to be or as it would if it was in tip-top shape. And so this is a really absorbable form of protein that it takes very minimal digestion before the body can use it. And it has those good fats in it from the chicken, and it adds an amazing flavor. So if you eat grains and you cook like quinoa or you cook rice, if you want to use either half or all chicken stock when you make that, or just add one of those broth cubes if you made those when you're cooking rice, it instantly gives it a really delicious flavor. First of all, like all the top chefs will use chicken stock, and so that's well known among chefs. But for home cooks, it gives not only a delicious flavor, but also that added nutrition benefit that we can all benefit from. And then what do we do with the chicken after, especially if it's run through the second time? If I've used my chicken twice and I got this nice golden broth, and then second I got this still nutritious but not as pretty, more pale broth, I toss those bones and chicken meat after that. If you want to, especially if you're just going to use it after the first time going through, you can just take your fingers and pick out the skin. The skin is great to eat. If you want to eat the skin or puree it into the broth, that's good also. But do whatever you want. If you want to discard the skin, that's okay too. And just pull the meat off with your fingers. And then if you want to add that to like taco meat, it's going to be really bland and it's going to have most of the fat boiled out of it. So it's not going to taste all that great on its own. But adding it to taco meat, like if you're browning some ground beef for tacos and you're adding taco seasoning, just add that chicken in there as well. It still has the protein in it, so it's still going to add some nutritional benefit, and then we're not wasting it. Or you can add it to chicken salad. Because chicken salad has that mayonnaise mixed in with it, and just add a little bit more salt than you might normally for fresh cooked chicken. And so those are the two ways that I use my chicken stock meat that's already gone through the process of making meat or making stock. So if you haven't made chicken stock before, I hope that you're putting the stuff that you're making in the cooking days to good use, and you're seeing the health benefits that extra protein, it helps grow hair long, it helps grow nails long, it helps with keep our mucous membranes soft during the dry seasons. It's really all around a great thing for healing the gut and all of that.